Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I need to tell you about the envelope that changed everything. The one that sat on my desk at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon with my name printed across the front. Inside was a severance package and a pink slip. 22 years with the same company. Gone in a single page. And in the weeks that followed, when I had no idea how I'd pay my mortgage or feed my kids, I discovered what God meant when He promised to supply all our needs. This is about the scariest financial moment of my life. And if you're worried about losing your job right now, you need to hear this. I started at Henderson Manufacturing right out of college, worked my way up from the factory floor to shift supervisor. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, predictable, safe. My wife and I built our life around that paycheck. We bought a house, had 2 kids, put down roots in the community. I coached Little League, she volunteered at the school. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Then the rumors started. The parent company was restructuring. There would be consolidation. Management kept saying, "Don't worry, your jobs are secure." They were lying. The announcement came on a Monday. They were closing our facility and moving operations overseas. 340 jobs eliminated. We had 90 days. I remember walking to my car that day, watching grown men cry in the parking lot. Some of these guys had been there 30 years. What do you do when the only job you've ever known disappears? That night, I sat with my wife at the kitchen table, going through our finances. Mortgage, car payments, insurance, groceries, my daughter's braces, my son's college fund we'd been contributing to. The math was terrifying. Even with severance, we had maybe 4 months before things got desperate. I started applying for jobs immediately. But here's what nobody tells you about being in your 40s and suddenly unemployed. You're either overqualified or too old or too expensive. We're looking for someone with more recent experience in this area. We've decided to go with a candidate who's a better cultural fit. The position has been filled. Week after week, rejection after rejection. I took a part-time job at a hardware store just to bring in something. Minimum wage, no benefits. I went from managing a team of 40 people to stocking shelves and mixing paint. The shame was crushing. I'd see people from church and avoid eye contact. I felt like I'd failed my family, failed as a man, failed at the one thing I was supposed to do, provide. My wife kept saying, "We'll get through this," but I could see the worry in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she'd pause before putting anything in the grocery cart, the way she'd started looking at apartments, just in case. We cut everything we could. Cable, subscriptions, date nights, family outings. We were in survival mode. And then the car broke down. $1,500 we didn't have. I remember sitting in that mechanic's waiting room, head in my hands, thinking, "God, where are you? I've been faithful, I've tithed, I've served, and now I can't even fix my car?" That Sunday, our pastor preached on Philippians 4:19, "And my God will supply every need of yours according to His riches and glory in Christ Jesus." I'd heard that verse my whole life, but sitting there, broke and desperate, it felt like mockery. After service, I told my wife, "I don't know if I believe that anymore. Where is God supplying our needs? We're drowning." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Are we though? We still have a roof over our heads, food in the fridge, the kids are healthy, we have each other. Maybe God's definition of need is different from ours." It hit me like a freight train. I'd been so focused on what I'd lost, my status, my income, my identity as a provider, that I'd stopped seeing what was still there. I started keeping a list. Every day, I'd write down one way God had provided. It started small. A neighbor brought over groceries. The mechanic gave us a payment plan. My son got a partial scholarship we didn't even apply for. My wife's freelance work picked up. Were we still struggling? Absolutely. But we weren't abandoned. God was meeting our needs, just not in the way I'd expected or demanded. Then something happened I never saw coming. One of my old coworkers called me. He'd started a small manufacturing consulting business and needed help with a project. Just contract work, a few weeks at most. I said yes immediately. The pay was decent, it wasn't permanent, but it was something. That contract led to another, then another. Within 6 months, 3 of us, former Henderson employees, had formed our own consulting firm, helping small manufacturers optimize their operations. We're not getting rich, but we're making it work. And here's the crazy part. I have more flexibility now than I ever did before. I'm home for dinner most nights. I made it to every one of my daughter's volleyball games this season. I'm actually there for my family. But beyond the practical, something deeper changed. I learned that my worth isn't tied to my job title or my paycheck. God doesn't love me more when I'm employed or less when I'm struggling. His provision isn't dependent on my performance. Philippians 4:19 doesn't promise luxury. It doesn't promise we'll never struggle financially. It promises that God will supply our needs according to his riches. And God's economy works differently than ours. He provided manna in the wilderness, just enough for each day. He fed 5,000 with a kid's lunch. He works through neighbors bringing casseroles and mechanics offering payment plans and contract jobs that turn into new careers. If you're facing a layoff right now, or you're unemployed and terrified, or you just got that envelope with your name on it, listen to me. God has not forgotten you. Your job security might fail, your savings might run out, your plans might completely fall apart. But God's promise stands. He will supply your needs. Maybe not your wants, maybe not on your timeline, maybe not in the way you expect, but he is faithful, and his riches and glory are more than enough to cover whatever you're lacking right now. Your identity isn't in your job title. Your worth isn't measured by your salary, and your security doesn't come from your employer. It comes from a God who sees you, knows what you need, and has never once failed to provide for his children. Trust him, even when the math doesn't make sense, even when you can't see how it's going to work out. He is faithful.
Thanks for watching. Here are today's reflection questions. Have you ever experienced a moment when losing something you thought was your security actually led you to discover what truly matters? What did that season teach you about God's faithfulness? Looking back on a difficult time in your life, can you now see ways God was providing that you couldn't recognize in the moment? How does remembering his past provision help you trust him with today's uncertainties? Drop your thoughts about the story in the comments below. Your experience might encourage someone else facing the same choice. If this resonated with you, hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real stories about trusting God when life falls apart. See you next time.